Oh boy, this one's nice. The wheel's missing. That's supposed to be a part of the wheel itself, so that's probably seized on there. Oh yeah, that looks beautiful, doesn't it? Another one of those of neglect. Yep. Well, looks like we better get started on it and see what we can do. Looks like she's going to need everything. Okay, so here's the wheel. Yeah, that piece right there is seized up. Alright. Well, there's underneath. You can see looks like the bolts are loose. The whole thing's been shifting. You can see the witness marks there. Let's see what we got here. And the blade is bent. Yep. Looks like they probably hit a rock or something. So that's going to have to be straightened up. Yay! Because that's usually out of balance. That's probably what happened first go round. And it seems like there was a lot of oil under this thing too. I don't know if that seal is out or what's going on. But I got a feeling that bent blade probably caused this thing to vibrate pretty bad, and that probably caused these things to get loose. All these bolts, you can see the witness marks, so that's going to be a bad thing. That is if the crankshaft isn't bent. Yippee! Turn it up. Alright, let's see. Man, that thing's on there. Well, I broke it, and it's in a couple pieces. There's another one there. I'm not touching it because they're hot. But it's definitely... Yeah, I'll just have to figure out some other way. So it happens when you don't take care of them. Alright, looks like we got... This one's cracked here. Looks like that one's cracked all the way through. I don't see a crack on that one, but I'll be darned if I'm gonna check it out. I think probably what I'll do is I'll put a washer on there and weld that. When I weld the washer on there, that'll give it its strength back. And then I'll just have to fill that in as best I can and maybe put a little paint on it and try it. Well, it doesn't matter. I think this thing's going to need to be cleaned up either way. I think I can save it. I can weld these cracks and probably save this whole unit. This plastic is still in pretty good shape, so I'm okay with that. And I think the wheels are usable, so yeah, There's some stickers that are falling off. Probably have some information. I'll try that. Check it out. So now if you do valves on these things, basically what you've got to do is, you want to check them to see if they're rocking back and forth. They've got just so much movement, but these things, you can tell they're just flimsy. I mean, this is literally almost tin can thickness, but these things really don't have to do much to them. What I do is, like, you can see how wobbly it is, and I just take that thing and I'll just tighten it up just like it is. I'm not going to mess with the feeler gauge. Just tighten it up. And then this one's the same way. You got to make sure that they're on base circles, so you got to turn the crankshaft or flywheel until both of these are down at the bottom, and you just tighten them up a little at a time. You don't have to take a big bite on them, just enough to where you can get them tight enough to where that they aren't moving around. See, that's all you really need. I wouldn't even worry about a feeler gauge myself, but just a little bit. That probably run a little bit better. And if it doesn't, I can back them off just a little bit. Real easy to do. Just a valve cover. Just pull it off. It's got 3 bolts. Just away you go. Now what I do, get a little light, stick down in there. I've already drained it, and then I spray some I don't know, just paint thinner or something. I take these little hemostats and I put a little bit of a shop towel down in there. Let's see if I can get it. It take a little bit out, but the rest of it's right there. It was pretty well soaked. So now if you look down inside there, it's not bad. I mean, it's cleaner than it was, so I always like to make sure that there's not a bunch of big shavings and stuff like that down in there. Alright, got that fuel tank off of there. There's not a lot in there, but there's a little bit. Just take that and dump that in here, and then I can kind of watch and see what it looks like. A lot of times you can see that there's quite a bit of water in there. Alright, so basically what I've got here is, that's just a hose barb, 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, just puts 2 hose pieces together. Buy them in a local hardware store. So this goes right in here, and then the inside is 1/2 inch. So I had to drill. Well, some of these are just absolutely rough. This one is a few years old, obviously, but the guy told me he had it 6 months. And a little surprise. Yeah, that's pieces. So wouldn't you know it, Rodney's knocking at the door on that one. Alright, well, let's see what happened here, because I don't know that there's your governor, or your oil splash. There's a cam. Yeah. Ooh, the crank is trashed. Look at that. It's gone. I would have not expected anything less. There's a rod cap. Who knows what caused all that? That looks like that might be bent too. Isn't that pretty nasty? Case isn't any good. But this engine is darn near brand new. He's like, I never ran it out of oil. It had perfect oil in it. It just blew up. Alright, so I've got this thing all cleaned up from what it was. And I spilled a little oil on it. I found a problem with that engine right there, which actually this engine came off of this deck, but I found that this seemed a little bit newer rather than this older deck. And then I got this new used one yesterday, free on the curb. So we'll see what it brings us, but it looks like it's in just as bad a shape, leaking oil. So then I've got this one to deal with. Keep dropping my sockets. Okay, let's have a look. I need to... Just gonna fight me. Alright, so what I figured out, well, I shouldn't have known this. Underneath this mower there was a lot of oil. And I thought, okay, I've seen that happen where it leaks through the little bleed hole in the deck. But this one I wasn't sure what was going on, but then you take a look at this blade. It's pretty straight right in here. But this one right here is pretty hunched over. So I think it took a pretty catastrophic pound somewhere here and caused it to bend quite badly. And unfortunately, instead of breaking the little trunk and the blade goes on, stripping this thing out or doing damage here or something like that, it bent the crank. So unfortunately the only way to fix that is going to have to be changing the crankshaft out, which I've got a couple of spare motors with cranks in them, but it's just kind of a pain to think about doing that, but might as well get started. Alright, now let coil. Okay, there's that. Need that. At least that wasn't hurt. Now we gotta dump all that brand new oil out of there. Oh, let's see if we can make a mess. Get down inside this bad boy. There's what it looks like on the inside. That's all, mostly all lawnmowers. Since there's no filtration process, you'll get pieces like that. So that's why it's good to actually take these engines and drain all the oil out once in a while, and then rinse it out with something like solvent or something, and then continue putting better oil back in it. It'll last a little longer since there's no filter. Alright, you're going to pull the cam, pull the crank, and everything's plastic. And then you've got to get that rod loose in there. 5/16. There we go. It's going to make a mess, but it's too bad too. That crankshaft, comparatively, well, this is the one that was blown up right here. You can see it's still got pieces of aluminum stuck to it. And this one's good, but you can almost see that bend is right in here somewhere. It goes in right there. I don't have anything with a real straight edge. This might be. Yeah, you can kind of see the gap in it right there, and if I turn it, see the gap kind of goes away. So it's definitely gone. I don't know. I could probably put that in the press, and if you got real lucky, you might be able to put it back. But I'm going to put probably this crankshaft in it. This is the 699, and this has got the steel gear on it, which will go, and then I'll use the camshaft instead of this steel gear right here, or plastic gear. I'll go ahead and use the steel one. Yeah, I just decided to pull that piston. I just kind of yanked it out of in there. Man, that dude is worn out. And can you tell how a piston's worn out on these? Without measuring them, I don't know. But I think what I kind of look at, the condition of not only the top of the piston, but also what's protruding down below. And can you squeeze the rings together? Is that a good indication? I don't know that I'm actually doing it all the way. But if I squeeze this ring together, look how much closer the ring is there as opposed to this one here. I mean, I can get it, but I think I'm pushing a little bit too far inward on it. And the rings are really, really sharp. Now, is that a good sign or bad sign? I mean, the ring should have some sharpness, but it just feels like there's a lot more edge on these rings, like they're really worn down. Now, let me show you something else. I'll get you my little light here. Bring you over here. I'll look down inside that cylinder a little bit. You see down in there? That thing's got quite a bit of scarring on the surface. Let's see if I can get you down here a little closer. Apologize the banging around and whatnot. See, kind of down in there. Hang on, let me put the deal back so I can kind of see where we're at. And you see how that thing's been hitting right there, and I don't know if that's kind of a normal thing or if this is something that goes on, but let's look at that newer engine block that's got a hole in it. A little cutaway right there, if you can see it. And you can see that this one doesn't have near the scoring on it. It's kind of too bad because, you know, if that doggone hole wasn't in it right there, I'd be apt to reuse this cylinder. And I think this one probably would be good. Now, who in the world wants to go through all this for one lousy lawnmower? Well, I do. I do because of a couple of reasons. Pretty soon these little engines are going to get outlawed. We're going to have to plug into electricity to mow our lawns, which can go either way, I suppose, but as bad as the cobalt farming is and that kind of stuff where they have to hire little kids to do it down in the Congo or whatever it is, I don't know. I've just watched some documentaries. I think it's better to try and get these things and keep them running as best you can. And hopefully these manufacturers won't completely phase these out. Maybe they'll make them a little bit better so they last longer, but I don't know. I doubt it. Anyway, I'm going to let that video go for now. I'll see you next time.